Hey, it's me, Cozy Hot Leaf Beverage, back in it again, baby. What are we doing today? Well, I'm finally finishing one of the worst anime I've ever covered. Train to the End of the World begins with a countryside girl named Yoka, who gets prompted to press a button that activates a 7G cellular network. And this ends up throwing the world into chaos, where back in her hometown, all the adults turn into animals. Why, you may ask? No one knows, and that's why it's stupid. We then follow her four friends and Yoka's dog, who ride a train through various towns that have also been transformed in strange ways, all in hopes of finding Yoka, who hadn't returned home in nearly a year. This anime was made in celebration of the 150th anniversary of Japan's first railway, so we can cheer for that. But otherwise, it's really just a crazy tale of misadventures. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get started and watch the story unfold. On her way into the train station in Ikebukuro, Japan, Yoka Nakatomi is surprised with cheer and brought up to a skyscraper, where people are celebrating the 7G launch ceremony, welcoming Yoka as the 77,777th person to arrive. The host of the Spread 7G Worldwide Committee, Hontaro Poison, asks what she expects from 7G, which should connect the world at record speeds. For Pontaro, it should be instant communication and contact with anyone, anywhere. Japan had lost in the market for establishing both 5 and 6G, but with 7G, Pontaro plans to reclaim Japan's honor. This new 7G will tap directly into the thoughts in your brain for an omni-device approach. But Yoka doesn't seem to really have any interest in this. The crowd then makes the countdown, where Pontaro prompts Yoka to press the 7G button. However, things aren't as they expected. The world and the people begin to distort until the city mixes into a disturbing jungle. 2 years later, in Agano, Japan, the adult citizens have transformed into animals who still try to maintain living their normal lives, where even this bear man, Masaharu, is apparently fighting with his wife, who is a deer now, as their tastes for dinner have become night and day, so he complains about her cooking often. The city of Agano is somewhat lucky with its people becoming animals, as there are rumors of places where everyone has turned into trees. Passing by are two girls, Reimi and Akira, who get offered some curry by Granny Toucan, as long as they're willing to deal with crickets in it. And even though Reimi isn't too ecstatic, Akira thinks there's nothing wrong since bugs are nutritious. However, for Reimi, nutrition isn't the issue. She desires cuteness and adventure. Akira looks at Reimi with disgust, hearing Reimi's rampant escapism again. Or is it just excessive optimism? Head in the clouds, perhaps? Reimi doesn't like this, but before she can slug Akira, Nadeko breaks up the fight, saying no fighting no matter what. After scolding her friends, Nadeko checks her phone to read that the food delivery caravan is arriving soon, but oddly, their friend Shizuru hasn't arrived yet. Maybe she's a little late from the depressing career consultation with Iguchi-sensei today, but it's not like there's any point in discussing a career with the world in this state. They then spot Zenjiro, a man who Granny Toucan remarks used to be tall and handsome. However, after the 7G incident, he's only able to incessantly repeat the words choo-choo, and even stranger, he's the only adult in Agano that's remained human. Because all the adults here turned at the age of 21 years and 3 months and above. A depressing idea with these girls knowing they'll eventually become animals too. Masaharu comes down because he's so hungry he can hardly wait, but staring at Nadeko, his animal instincts kick in, only to get slugged away by Shizuru, who scolds him. Aware once again, he's surprised that he became truly animalistic in that moment. The girls ask how Shizuru's career path meeting went, but it didn't go exactly as they expected. Shizuru's only desire at the moment is to find Yoka. Then suddenly, the sound of a song begins playing as the Black Leopard caravan arrives to deliver food to Agano's citizens. Shizuru checks with one of the drivers named Neko to hopefully find some rumors of her friend Yoka, but unfortunately, nothing has turned up on his end. Shizuru then asks to work with him, but he tells her no way, because his work is too dangerous, even with Shizuru being a second dan in Agano Jujutsu. Neko recalls the events after the 7G incident, where all the other delivery companies fell one after another. The Black Leopard continues because they're the only delivery company left. but even he knows that could end at any time. After the Black Leopard Company leaves, Nadeko opens up her delivery. It's a sweet myrtle plant, something she's really wanted recently for some reason. However, in the newspaper covering the plant, Shizuru is surprised to find a month-old newspaper with their friend Yoka in it. Just what is she doing in Ikebukuro? As Shizuru runs to show Yoka's grandmother the newspaper, she reflects on the event 2 years ago that drastically changed their world. The distance between train stations and between towns suddenly grew to impossible lengths. Not just the geography, but all the people and living things completely changed. In Agano, all the grown-ups turned into animals, and while they can still reason like humans, she feels that one day they'll fully turn into animals. Shizuru arrives to show Yoka's grandmother the newspaper, where upon seeing it, she tears up. The world that transformed surprised everyone at first. They were shocked from being turned into weird animals, as well as anger and utter despair. A number of folks formed a survey team and ventured outside of Agano. Half of them got cold feet and came running back. The other half never returned. Shizuru returns home to her red panda mother. However, she can only think back to that day where she and Yoka had fought, and Yoka ran away. The last thing she had told Yoka being, "I don't care about you anymore." That was the last time she saw her. She's had no luck searching for her since. She then spots Pochi, Yoka's dog, outside her door, and goes for a walk outside until she spots Zenjiro. A string cap falls from Zenjiro, and after Pochi smells it, they head towards the train. Shizuru pops open the train to find a conductor's cap, and when placing it on Zenjiro, he returns to his regular form and is apparently pissed at Pontaro. He had always told that guy to give up on 7G. Apparently, Pontaro ignored many researchers who had warned that the idea threatened the laws of physics, even performing a strange surgery on Zenjiro. However, Zenjiro swears he'll put an end to 7G and save Ikebukuro. However, after Shizuru shakes Zenjiro, he turns back to his worthless state of being, and putting the cap back on doesn't seem to fix it. The next day, Shizuru tells her mother goodbye, and she thanks her teacher, but ultimately, she's dropping out of school. She checks everything on the train, with Zenjiro telling her she should be fine. However, she can't leave without her 3 friends worried about her. With the train departing, the 3 friends and Pochi decide to tag along, with there being 30 stops before they arrive at Ikebukuro, all traveling in hopes to find their missing friend. As they travel over the Koma River, Reimi shouts out the window staring at the beautiful serene water. She's amazed, now seeing a world outside of Agano. As the girls play in the train, they wonder when they'll be reaching Ikebukuro, all while Shizuru focuses on navigation. It used to take only a little over an hour previously. However, with the state of the world having changed, not even the Black Leopard caravan can reach it now. As Reimi and Akira fight over how long it's going to take them, Shizuru yells at them to let her focus, sending them into a corner. They then notice the train is going a little faster, so they ask Shizuru to slow it down, but she's been trying. And this sudden roller coaster ride puts 3 of the girls into a panic. After figuring it out, Shizuru sighs, saying this is a lot harder than what Zenjiro had taught her. And the other 3 girls were surprised to hear he could turn into a total hottie for only 5 minutes a day, regaining complete coherency. Reimi then moves the conversation to what she's heard about Ikebukuro. Apparently the town has model scouts, butlers, as well as detectives and murderers. If they don't pay attention, they could be stabbed, run over, and scammed. She then begins panicking, realizing she left her piggy bank at home, so right now she only has 250 yen. Shizuru offers to let her borrow, since she has 3,000 yen. However, the girls mock her a little because that isn't much at all. With the money Reimi's borrowed, she wants some boba, chicken, and French toast. However, when Nadeko recommends something they can take on their long trip like canned food, Reimi isn't so excited. Luckily, Shizuru packs some supplies for survival just in case. She thought she had packed more food than they pulled out, but somehow ended up with less by bringing in a bitter melon plant? Anyways, traveling further into the fog, Reimi gets more antsy, asking when they're going to reach Ikebukuro. She begins to bicker with Akira over useless things. Nadeko tries to break up the fighting, but with Shizuru sick of their nonsense. She tells them they didn't have to come. She was planning on going alone from the start. This gets the train a little silent. Then the bittermelon vines suddenly grow onto Reimi. The whole thing is growing much faster than it usually would. Pochi then starts barking after spotting something in the fog. They make a stop and Akira freaks out, thinking the being out there is Komasi, the plesiosaur said to have been living in the Koma River to this very day. It's just a guy in a swan boat. He's a little over the top, but apparently he's been traveling up the Koma River jotting down notes and doing research. Shizuru is quite surprised to learn he's from Ikebukuro, but after learning he has no idea what's going on there, they leave him and continue to make their way. Despite him warning them not to continue their journey, he gives them something useful, a map he drew. After leaving the man behind, they were somewhat glad to meet another adult human since they hadn't seen one for a while, even though he was somewhat weirder than Zenjiro. The three girls then have a heartfelt moment, sympathizing with Shizuru, who's been emotionally desperate to find Yoka again. Nadeko even has Shizuru apologize for saying she wished they hadn't joined her for the journey. Later, they try starting up the train again after stopping, only to realize the water level has risen. They check the map they got from the man earlier only to see goofy, odd directions they can't make anything out of. They then suddenly hear patterns of ringing noises coming from the tracks, and it turns out to be Morse code Zenjiro would use to contact Shizuru every day at 5 p.m. Shizuru can't quite figure it out fast enough, so Akira takes the reins to tell Zenjiro the water level is too high where they're at. He tells them to get to higher ground, but before he can answer which direction to go, he turns back to his useless form. And unfortunately, it looks like a huge wave is headed towards the girls. They run back into the train and drive in the opposite direction, narrowly escaping the sweeping waters. Making it to a place of safety, Shizuru stares back at the destroyed tracks, knowing there's no way they can go back home now. With no place to go but forward, they press onward, reaching their first town of Higashi Agano, and they're greeted by people with mushrooms on their heads? We turn back time to Yoka's first day at school. Shizuru had accidentally bumped into her desk, and despite Yoka having hid her face the whole day, the girls were finally able to see it. They all introduced themselves to the new girl, and of course, Akira introduced Reimi as flunking Reimi, while welcoming the shy Yoka warmly. Back to the present, the people of Higashi Agano are surprised to see the train, as they hadn't seen one in ages. They know Agano is quite a ways away from them, so they're glad to hear everyone is doing fine over there, despite them all being animals. With Higashi Agano's declining population, they luckily have plenty of housing. Nadeko remarks that unfortunately, they don't have much money to afford a place to stay, which makes the people eerily all turn towards her at once, with the main girl mentioning money's no problem here at all. However, Akira doesn't take this news so positively. In the town, the girls find the people here so friendly as opposed to back at home, where it's carnivores versus herbivores. Not in a predator versus prey way, but over what shrine offerings should be used. When Akira mentions they should have just used Agano's specialties like bitter melon, their town guide, Matsuta, reacts somewhat negatively, but brushes it off, trying to now say it's no big deal. They learned Matsuta used to live in Ikebukuro as well, but eventually moved back here, making Shizuru think of Yoka, remembering the time they took a picture together when Yoka had finished cutting her hair. In the evening, the girls are introduced to a luxurious place for staying, where Matsuta recommends using the mist sauna. Everyone uses it except Akira, who feels uncomfortable about undressing around all of them. Sitting by Pochi, Akira wonders if it was truly alright leaving home. She felt conflicted about it, but didn't want to be alone. She lies on Pochi and spots one of the town's residents creepily watching her. Then, Matsuta arrives, bringing several plates of food, all containing mushrooms, something that Akira doesn't seem too fond of. After Matsuta takes her leave though, Akira is startled to see a second resident appear next to the first one that was watching her. But when the girls arrive back from the sauna, the two men disappear. As they're about to dig in, Akira stops them, bringing up the fact that this whole town seems weird, especially the mushrooms on their heads. However, the girls pay Akira's concern no mind. During sleep time, Akira wakes up to use the restroom. She wonders why there's a sauna so close but the bathroom is so far. She stops to faintly hear some of the residents say, "Finally, some new blood." As she makes her way with Pochi to where she hears the residents speaking, they utter that outsiders are so dumb, they fall for anything. Akira backs up, but accidentally steps on Pochi's tail, causing him to shriek, alerting the townsfolk, While running, the mushrooms on the heads of the townsfolk stretch and pursue her like an otherworldly horror. Akira trips and tumbles, but luckily, Shizuru and the rest of the girls find her. Matsuta comes out of the dark and back at their stay, assures them the unfamiliar surroundings must have given Akira a bad dream, and the girls buy it, while Matsuta leaves with an ominous look. The next day, as the girls continue to ignore Akira's pleas to leave, Pochi starts repeatedly barking at them. They head over to the train where the bittermelon seems to have overgrown. As Reimi takes a bite, the Higashi townsfolk seem to shudder in fear at the fruit. Matsuta doesn't seem to like a bittermelon. She hates the idea of a fruit that thrives in the hot, scorching sun. She goes on an unhinged rant that the world went haywire thanks to life that prefers warm climates and sunlight. And after telling them to tear off all the bittermelon, she leaves with complete feelings of disgust. Shizuru tells them Akira is on divining duty with her, sending Reimi and Nadeko to go shop for supplies in town. However, Akira freaks out, worried about their two friends, and runs to town looking to find them. Wandering the eerie town, she sees a man suddenly fall with the mushrooms on his head pulsate. She runs, meeting her friends who get supplies from Matsuta, and finds that her friends seem to want to stay here in Higashi. Back at the train, they find Shizuru didn't finish pruning the bittermelon. She seems unmotivated for some reason, questioning if they can even truly make it to Ikebukuro. She suddenly passes out, and Akira freaks out seeing the mushroom on her head, on all of her friends' heads. The 5 o'clock alarm rings, and Akira communicates back and forth with Zenjiro, explaining the situation. He mentions that mushrooms like dark, moist places, but before he can fully explain how to deal with them, he turns back to his useless form, causing Akira to lose her mind. Then the townsfolk suddenly surround Akira, telling her life as a mushroom is the only way. She heads back into the train, trying to convince her friends to move, but it's no use. With Shizuru now unconvinced Yoka is worth saving, she mentions that she never understood Yoka to begin with. Reflecting on the past, Yoka even then wanted to move to Ikebukuro. Then, regaining the will to go find her friend, Shizuru rips the mushroom off of her head, feigning that she had lost all her memories of everyone, which frustrates Akira. As the townsfolk hit the train and holler at them to stop, Shizuru and Akira rip the mushrooms off of their remaining friends' heads, bringing them back to their senses. Pochi then signals to use the bittermelon, so Shizuru runs out, combating all the townspeople. She attempts to rip the mushroom off of Matsuta's head in order to save her, but turns out she and the rest of the townsfolk are not actually being controlled like they were. They chose the path of the mushroom, knowing it would kill them after 2 years. Matsuta believes Shizuru's journey to be pointless, praying that she choke on her food and die. And with that, the girls continued their journey to find their missing friend, barely thanking Akira. At school in their youth, the 5 girls would spend their days together, with Yoka fixated on the idea of a star. She would watch Shizuru, who expressed having so many dreams she wanted to fulfill with vigor. She wanted to master Agano Jujutsu and go on many various adventures. Yoka thought of her as amazing because Shizuru did what she wanted without any inhibitions. Yoka envied that because she herself felt she couldn't do anything. However, Shizuru cheered Yoka on as the two promised to always think of each other on the big twinkling star. It's been about 3 hours since they left Higashi Agano. The stops used to be much closer before the incident. Reimi wishes she had visited Ikebukuro back then. It's exactly 30 stops from Higashi Agano to Ikebukuro Station, so they have 29 left. And as Nadeko and Reimi talk about how Yoka will be happy to see them, Shizuru gives a not-so-cheerful expression. As Akira stares at the window, she gets startled as Pochi had sniffed something she'd been hiding in her skirt. Even Reimi takes notice, wondering if Akira has showered. However, Akira assures her she has. They arrive at Musashi Yakote Station, where in a big grass field, a goat suddenly pops up. This place is known to have goats nearby, but not like this one. It stands to be a bipedal creature that sprints towards them, ramming into the train, and a whole herd begins attacking continuously as they leave. Finally getting away, the group is discouraged, knowing they might have to face 28 more stops of craziness, with Shizuru having to hit herself to stay awake due to being exhausted. Relaxing with dinner for the evening, the other girls suggest taking turns driving since Shizuru had done all of it from the beginning. Despite the important conversation, Akira seems more fixated on her food, but still finds a way to logically answer if they take turns driving, it's less dangerous since they won't fall to exhaustion, and it'll be more efficient since the train will be moving more. Then, they all talk about how they're enjoying bitter melon a lot more these days. However, Akira doesn't feel the same way for some reason. She steps outside with the excuse of using the restroom, but is actually concerned a mushroom is growing on her butt. They continue their trek the next day, reaching Koma, but suddenly, strange vegetables rise amongst the plants that begin to laugh in insane vigor that scares the girls into just driving away. They then drive further, past areas of Japan that now seem more fantastical, until they reach stop 27, Higashihano. But Shizuru chooses not to stop. They then suddenly get a storm of golf balls raining on them, with Reimi making a horrible assumption that all of these weird beings were once people too. They reach stop 26, which features an assortment of creepy trees. Reimi wishes they had at least stopped at some place where there were people they could talk to, like back at Higashi. Then, Akira responds creepily, saying being able to talk means being able to lie or say hurtful things, or start arguments. If it means getting rid of a source of conflict, Akira thinks not being able to talk is fine. That way, she can stay in a dark, quiet, and damp place. Oh no, she really is talking like those mushroom people. Reimi checks Akira's forehead, which frightens her. They've figured her out. Nadeko and Reimi then begin shaking Akira down, having discovered the mushroom growing in her. They want to pull it out, knowing it'll cause her to die in 1 to 2 years. However, Akira continues to resist, squirming as she says she's finally reached tranquility. Reimi ends up pulling the mushroom out, and it runs, screams, and explodes. Checking back on Akira though, she's not quite back to normal. She's, for some reason, now overly positive and goofy. With the mushroom having grown so long, the other 3 girls are now concerned Reimi's pulled out more than just the mushroom. Did she also pull out the core of Akira's being? Shizuru tries contacting Zenjiro for advice, and he responds there's a good doctor in Hano with a foul mouth he's good friends with. They need to head to Inariyama Park, and Reimi adds more credibility as Kazuyo, the capybara, also talked about this well-known doctor once. They make their visit to stop 25. There are no people so far, but they do have running water in the bathrooms. At stop 24, they talk to a man turned into a Jizo statue. He doesn't know how the rest of the world is nowadays, since he and everyone else in this town can no longer move, but he does know that Inariyama Park is only 2 more stops away. Passing through stop 23, it's a town with space-like innards. But finally, they reach stop 22, where there doesn't seem to be a soul in sight. They suddenly hear ringing, but don't see the source of it. However, they do finally see a town. Shizuru and Reimi hop over the fence and now realize the town they approached is super tiny. A mini plane passes by and starts shooting them for some reason, so they try running away, only to get bombarded by another flurry of tiny bullets from airdropped soldiers. And it's not over. It seems the town's entire military continues to assault them until they pass out. In their youth, Reimi was always chasing Akira around, since she herself didn't know how to study for tests. Akira would give cynical advice, such as tearing out the parts from a textbook for Reimi to memorize between 2 rice crackers to eat, and somehow Reimi would take this seriously. Reimi then awakened from her dream, screaming as she found she and Shizuru were strapped to helicopter blades. Prior to the world having changed, Shizuru wondered what the point of even studying was, to which Yoko responded, maybe it's to begin to understand what they don't already know. However, there was still a lot Shizuru didn't understand about Yoka. We turn back to Reimi and Nadeko struggling to escape the helicopter blades, but then the military arrives completely armed and questioning who the giant girls are. Reimi explains they're from Agano, and they came seeking medical help. Shizuru starts getting mad at Reimi and the two begin to bicker, so the commander has the blades spin to shut them up. After tensions settle, Reimi then added they are looking for the doctor, because Akira was affected by the 7G mushrooms. This startles the soldiers, and the commander then told the girls he refuses to let this news reach their city, and tomorrow, their skeletons will be in their city museum. After the soldiers leave, a cleaning woman comes by. The 2 girls try to reason with her to release them. The woman refuses at first because if she helps, the boss will put her skeleton on display as well. So, Shizuru threatens, saying she'll pee herself here and make the park a mess, which would ultimately lead to the cleaning woman getting killed as well. After freeing them, Raimi thanks the woman. The woman tells them the boss has captured the doctor, so they'll need to find someone in town who knows the doctor's whereabouts. As they search around, the woman explains after the 7G incident, their town first swelled greatly in size, and then recoil caused it to turn small. Amidst the chaos, one person brought the townsfolk together. That was the doctor, Kappa Makoto Angstrom. The people appointed Dr. Makoto as their leader, and were able to sustain their way of living without issue, other than size. That was before the boss arrived, who seized control of the town quickly, imprisoning Dr. Makoto in an unknown location. In time, the town was divided between the Inariyama upper class, loyal to the boss, and the lower class who were deprived of their freedom. This woman is a part of the lower class citizens, which are under constant supervision, allowed only to exist solely for infrastructure upkeep. The lower class mainly maintains the military base and generates electricity to be used by the boss for enjoyment. Sneaking around somehow, the girls are able to tie up some soldiers and free the lower class, where they hope to gather information on the doctor's location. Back at the train, Akira's condition is worsening. Her body feels unusually heavy for some reason, but it's alright, because Raimi usually finds a way to save her. The day after Raimi ate the textbook crackers, her stomach really hurt. The two girls fought over Akira's suggestion and split from each other. Walking away, Akira got bullied by some boys because she enjoyed reading, but Raimi still came to save the day. She's a little late this time, so when she comes back, Akira and Nadeko definitely have to scold her for when she inevitably returns. Shizuru and Raimi arrive at the airbase where Dr. Makoto is being kept. They break her out, but get spotted by the boss and his soldiers. However, even being bigger than the townsfolk, he's still shorter than these high school girls. Raimi and the boss begin arguing back and forth until he unleashes military fire on her. It's nothing to her though, as she simply kicks an assault vehicle away and dodges some tiny missiles. Shizuru then takes him down using her jujitsu, and even with them trying to fire at the doctor, Raimi protects her, and Shizuru slide kicks the soldiers away, creating an opening for Raimi to escape. Shizuru then passes out. Back at the train, Dr. Mikoto looks into Akira's condition. Turns out she's not a medical doctor, but a scientist who worked on 7G. She determines Akira's condition not so much the mushroom, but more of a result of the 7G that affected her. In her field of work, this is known as the 7G wave brain phenomenon, where under 7G, one's perception can cause drastic changes on one's own body. So Akira's condition is a result of her perception that a vital part of her got pulled out by the mushrooms. So they need to convince her she's normal by force feeding her mushrooms? Nah, y'all lost me there. They don't have any currently though, but there are some mushrooms in the boss's office. She then remarks there might have been a better solution if Taira Zenjiro were still around, which leads to the girls mentioning he's been staying in their hometown of Agano. Dr. Makoto then flashes back to when Pontaro tried to enforce the wibble-wobble surgery onto her, but luckily, Zenjiro saved her, unfortunately leaving himself as the only victim. In the boss's room, Shizuru awakens, ready to take on the boss. She first questions his motives controlling the town, to which he responds, he always liked bases. They contain fighter jets, choppers, and all sorts of vehicles. He told his friends he wanted to work at a base, but they all laughed at him since he was neither smart nor athletic. But with the 7G incident in this town, he finally had his chance. Shizuru flashed back to times Yoka had discussed her dreams, and began tearing up. Then the base suddenly gets broken into, with Raimi demanding Shizuru's freedom and the boss's mushrooms. They take things outside, where fighter jets attack Raimi, and when she falls over, her bracelet breaks. An important bracelet Akira had given her as an apology for the textbook. She's pissed now, and with all the soldiers assaulting her, she takes a telephone pole and destroys plane after plane until she's able to swing and hit the boss away. She's still in a fit of rage, and Shizuru has to push her down to stop her. They feed the mushrooms to Akira, but it doesn't seem to work. In a heat of desperation, Raimi pulls out one of Akira's books, reminding Akira she's crabby, stubborn, and likes complicated readings like in this book. Reimi tears the pages and begins shoving it in Akira's mouth. And when Akira swallows, she pushes Reimi away asking if she's a sadist, and rants on the fine nuances of sadism while declaring Reimi an imbecile. Reimi hugs Akira because she's now back to normal, but not happy that her favorite book is torn to shreds. The townsfolk have also detained the boss and are sending him to a deserted island that grew giant from the 7G incident. He shouldn't be able to escape from there. And with that, Dr. Makoto plans to head back to Agano to hopefully find a way to fix the world corrupted by 7G, and the girls continue their journey to Ikebukuro. On their way, the girls discuss different names for the train they're on, with Akira not liking any of Reimi's suggestions since they all sound skanky. Nanako suggests the Ikebukuro Express, which makes me think of the Astral Express. However, Shizuru thinks they should name it Apogee, the farthest point that the moon or a satellite reaches from the Earth. The rest of the girls accept the name and are surprised just now learning Shizuru is interested in stars and outer space. Shizuru puts on a somber look, remembering it's not her interest, it's Yoka's. She's the one who taught Shizuru the word. The three girls in the back then question why Yoka went off on her own in the first place. She never seemed like the kind of person who'd do their own stuff. Hearing this only saddens Shizuru more, knowing she might have been the cause of it. The girls continue to discuss what there is even to do in Ikebukuro. They have bookstores, an arts theater, an aquarium, but going to any of those doesn't really fit Yoka either. She's more of the type to fit in, but never really takes charge. However, Nadeko thinks it's maybe time for them all to accept that maybe they never really understood Yoka. They make a stop near Kiyose for Shizuru to do some maintenance work. And oh no, Pochi's throwing up. Akira is worried that since Pochi is 13 or 14 years old, he might die soon. They need him to track down Yoka's scent. Nanako then asks Shizuru why Yoka left them in the first place. She must know something. Shizuru reluctantly admits she and Yoka had a fight. All Yoka had told her was, "Now I get it." We flash back to that night, where Yoka told Shizuru she wanted to work on new planetary probes and space stations. She wanted to go to university and apply for research. However, Shizuru told her that kind of job doesn't sound realistic to get. After all, they're just from some tiny town with little significance. How could they go from Agano to outer space? She insensitively told Yoka to perhaps compromise and do something more normal. Insecurities definitely appeared on Shizuru's face as she told Yoka, "You gotta know when you've got no chance." Yoka then went quiet, and when being prompted by Shizuru to say something, this is when she responded, "Now I get it." Shizuru then began getting furious. However, Yoka was in tears, knowing one of her best friends doubted her. She then stormed off, with Shizuru's last screaming words being, "I don't care about you anymore." Back inside the train, everyone agreed Shizuru was to blame. They'd all feel awful having their dreams put down that way. Except for Shizuru. She's still questioning if what she said was really that bad, but no one could deny she was the reason Yoka ran away. She then began asking if Yoka was just as bad for leaving without saying anything, but of course, none of the other girls really agreed. Shizuru felt everyone would be better off alone, so she packed up and headed outside of the train into the night. The girls still in the train decide to let Shizuru cool down, thinking chasing after her wouldn't really do anything, so Pochi decided to go after her. Inside the train, Reimi is really worried about Shizuru. However, Nadeko is most logical, knowing the train tracks are the only way to get to Ikebukuro, so they're bound to catch up with Shizuru eventually. But even though Nadeko herself is somewhat worried, she pulls herself together, putting on a smile for everyone. Shizuru and Pochi continue making their way, taking a shortcut. However, a man in the forest is watching them. Sitting under a tree, not really having made too much progress, Shizuru finally decides to head back. But she's lost her way. She decides to head towards higher ground, and there's even more people watching her. Pochi then begins growling, and when Shizuru looks away noticing a weird smell, he's gone. Then, suddenly, a zombie appears in front of her, so she kicks it, and another, and escapes another. She's completely surrounded by zombies from Kiyose, but she takes down one after another. Pochi helps somewhat, but with Shizuru getting pinned down, she gets saved when this girl named Kuroki tells them to stop. She then has them capture her and take her away. Back at the train, the girls are worried since they've traveled but still haven't seen Shizuru or Pochi. But suddenly, they hear the Black Leopard caravan approaching. Meeting with Neko at his caravan, Neko reports things are much worse in Ikebukuro than they were in Agano. But things are just as bad here. He warns the girls to leave as soon as possible, with there being migratory zombies in the area. Kuroki, the queen of zombies, explains to Shizuru that zombies are pretty fragile. They rot in the heat and freeze and snap in the cold. They get mushy in the rain, but can't dry out too much either. That's why they're constantly on the move, searching for the perfect climate and soil. As the queen, she has the duty to lead them. Shizuru is a bit listless due to being hungry, so Kuroki has one of her zombies offer a limb for her to eat. However, she and Pochi don't seem too interested, of course. Even then, Kuroki has never tasted a zombie herself. She has her own special diet of corned beef. With Neko and the Black Leopard caravan leaving, the girls are now worried Shizuru might end up a zombie, but they know they have to search for her. Later, we see Kuroki's swarm of zombies taking Shizuru away. Shizuru and Kuroki banter a bit, with Kuroki teasing that Shizuru is going to be fed to the zombies, even though they could just eat corned beef. Shizuru isn't too happy because her skirt is gonna fly open for everyone to see like this. So Kuroki commands the zombies to let her down. Back at the train, the other three girls plant a flag so they can easily spot where the train is, even from far away. Akira tells the other two they need to stay close together, although Reimi teases her for always being the one going off on her own. As they walk through the forest to track down Shizuru, Akira breaks down her knowledge base of zombies. They only come out at night, they have bad eyesight, and they love brains. So, she displays a fake brain made from aluminum foil they can use as a getaway to buy time during encounters. And, looks like it's pretty effective. As the zombie tries to take the brain decoy from Akira's hand, Reimi screams as more appear. Akira then tells the girls not to move because zombies can't tell people apart from them if they act like zombies themselves. With them getting examined by the zombies, Akira throws the fake brain on the floor, taking the zombies away from them. The zombies then rip open the fake brain, and turning back to the girls, it seems they decided to paint their faces in order to play the part of a zombie much better. And this totally works as the zombies begin paying them no mind. The girls try walking away until Nadeko looks back and suddenly screams. She quickly covers her mouth, seeing a zombie carrying Shizuru's backpack. The three girls then tail the zombies while making "ah-ooh" zombie noises, hoping where they're going leads to their missing friend. They finally find Shizuru and Pochi, relieved to see the two are normal. Seeing them, Shizuru begins freaking out. Nadeko tries calling out to her, but Reimi and Akira smack her to quiet her down so they don't draw attention. It seems Shizuru is trying to ask if they've turned into zombies or if they're still human. Shizuru is definitely freaking out, with her friends shaking. She thinks they're signaling that they can't move their eyeballs, arms about to fall off, and they need more brains. Then, with Kuroki asking what's wrong, Shizuru's stun-locked. Kuroki wonders what's going on with those three particular zombies, and Shizuru's best thought is to play coy and whistle like nothing's going on. Kuroki then has the three brought over, where she interrogates them a little. She doesn't want a rebellion amongst her zombies. Since they can still speak, she surmises they've only just turned into zombies or they're just pretending. So, to figure it out, she has the zombies bring a bowl of udon. It's apparently a specialty in the town she's from. It has thick noodles simmered in miso, with seasonal veggies and pork. Kuroki then begins eating to see if the three girls react at all, and determines they are really zombies, since zombies don't actually have an appetite for food. Or are they? Her next trial is playing games in front of the three girls, which she loses terribly at. Nadeko seems frustrated, knowing all Kuroki had to do was reload her bullets, making Kuroki suspicious because zombies don't fret. She then commands Nadeko to play, and she goes hard, not making her friends too happy. She's potentially blowing their cover over her passionate gaming. The zombie queen then remarks that Nadeko sure has fast reactions for a zombie, so Shizuru has to come in with an excuse that Nadeko still has her reflexes, since she just turned into a zombie. And then the girls laugh in agreement, until Kuroki mentions zombies don't laugh. She's now certain they aren't zombies and calls her army to tie them up. But Shizuru isn't going to let them hurt her friends, so she begins assaulting the army with her Agano jujitsu techniques. And even Pochi taking one down shows the other three that the zombies aren't particularly strong. So Akira tests it out by knocking a head off. The other two girls then get in on it as well, but they're horrified realizing the zombies just put their bodies back together. After all, zombies don't die. Narako then remembers something Neko had told them about the migratory zombies. They're apparently weak to stimulation from humans in a arousing way. They're not perverted, it's just an actual weak point. With Akira hypothesizing the reason being zombies' functions are an antithesis to life. Thus, Narako shouts out, "Ero!" And Akira catches on that it's about the stimulation tip that Neko had told them earlier. She needs them to say something erotic, causing the girls to panic. Akira then begins reciting erotic novel lines that are so naughty, I'm not gonna say them on YouTube. But this for some reason causes the zombies to shake and explode? Kuroki is flabbergasted. They know the zombies' weakness. Running from the sprinter zombies, Akira has to come up with more erotic lines, while Shizuru kicks the last one down before they get away. Back inside the train, the girls breathe a sigh of relief under the rain, knowing Shizuru is back with them. Return to the next day, where Akira explains the zombies are on their path to Ikebukuro, and they wonder if they should just run through them. It then hits 5 o'clock, so it's time to contact Zenjiro, and he apparently teaches them an erotic song that can eliminate the zombies. The train heads down its path in the evening, where Kuroki had prepared a mountain of zombies to prevent the girls from passing. The girls, however, sing their song, causing the zombies to explode. But Shizuru wonders why the remaining zombies aren't coming after them. Akira remarks that moving in packs isn't very zombie-like to begin with. That would imply there's a chain of command with a leader and followers. She's never read anything on zombies having hierarchies. Shizuru then begins walking off, thinking her best move is to go talk to the queen. Narako tries to stop her, but that's where Shizuru explains that Kuroki probably isn't a zombie. After all, she's the only one of the zombies that's eating human food. She's most likely pretending to be one, because she'd be in trouble if they found out she was human. But if she really is a zombie, Shizuru would just smash her to pieces. Narako then decides to go with her since she has a talent for archery and several hours playing House of the Dead. The two approach the zombie pot, where Shizuru tells Kuroki that she just wants to talk. Shizuru sprints her way up and touching Kuroki's face, the makeup comes off. Kuroki thinks back to that time where she hid in the bathroom of a disheveled grocery store, getting surrounded by zombies. The zombies began exploding, and she freaked out, unable to understand what was happening. Oh no, it's because they could see her skirt was up. She learned that was their weakness, and she became the zombie queen ever since then. The girls asked if Kuroki wanted to go back home, and she did at first. She wandered and wandered and wandered, but due to the 7G incident, her home was a much further distance that felt unreachable. She went back to the zombies, where they came out, bowing to her feet and ready to serve her. So, she put on her makeup and praised her loyal subjects for surviving the mold they were covered in. Reimi found it adorable that Kuroki decided to take the zombies with her to wander around. She didn't want the zombies to fall apart from the mold. The girls then offer to take Kuroki to Ikebukuro with them as their friend, and Kuroki's eyes glimmered being called a friend. But she can't do that. She's a noble queen. So from this point, she'll tell her zombies not to attack any humans. The girls, however, are worried she'll get attacked, but she's willing to deal with it. They exchange supplies amongst each other and say their goodbyes, where Kuroki tells them to be careful because she's heard Ikebukuro has a queen of its own. And the girls continue with only 14 stops until they hit their destination. And you're destined to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Here at My Shoujo Weekly, you'll find plenty of interesting stories to watch. So come on, hit that subscribe and give me a like. Moving through their next station, it's eerily quiet and peaceful until everyone's bodies get incredibly itchy and they can't stop scratching themselves. But Shizuru finds the willpower to speed the train up and get them out. Then, they arrive in a gloomy city covered in rain that quickly becomes a place that evokes their worst regrets, from Akira letting someone drown to Narako wishing she had stopped her parents from splitting up. Even Pochi has his worst memory running through his mind. Traveling forward, the girls speak of a particular town that got turned into some dumb parody of Alice in Wonderland. One Yoka and Shizuru had watched together. once. That Yoka apologized for spoiling parts of the show and how Alice could defeat her captors. And entering the town, it's pretty much the Alice in Wonderland parody, except the bad guys killed the protagonist, and any remaining citizens who turn against them get turned into streetlights. After the girls announce they're going to Ikebukuro, the boss, Chaos, enters the scene. Someone had given him the order to not let anyone travel there, so he ordered his men to capture the girls. Shizuru slugs the pursuers and the girls are able to make it down the city streets, where they're surrounded once again. So, they take a made-up canonical story entrance to where some of the pigs are hiding, and of course, the pig people are frightened about getting found out. Inside the freezer, they find Sue, the, self-ending character, who Raimi is so excited to see. Being a big fan, she wants an autograph. But all poor Sue can do is beg not to be killed. She actually confirms Alice and the rest of their companions didn't die, but disappeared and turned into shards. And what they need to turn them back to normal is inside their graves. The girls then go out in disguise to find the gravekeeper so they can steal his scythe. With Raimi, Akira, and Nadeko distracting the bad guys, Shizuru and Sue use this time to get the shards. But during their escape, one of the bad guys finds out Sue's identity. However, they still get away. They try resurrecting the cast, but unfortunately the shards turn to dust. And even worse, Sue gets turned into a shard from one of the bad guys outside, and she turns to dust as well. The bad guys start hammering at the door, and with the pig people ready to surrender, Nadeko gives a speech about not giving up and about how there's no point in thinking about what they could have done differently, with thoughts of her parents split in her mind. The pigs find her words inspiring, much like their beloved Alice, so they put her in Alice's tiny outfit. Yeah, this arc sucks. Then the rest of the girls get costumes of the remaining cast. The bad guys end up breaking in, but luckily, the pig people had some pickle juice ready as a distraction, and the girls escape through a pipe to the outside. Running through a gravesite, Nadeko is alerted that inside her skirt is a bow, so she uses a grave marker to shoot a guy down. Getting attacked by Chaos's cronies, Akira realizes they're all playing by the rules of shogi, with Akira commandeering using the rules. She helps Shizuru take out the cat guy, and they start defeating everyone consecutively. The girls then surround Chaos, who escapes onto a flying saucer. He does the good old "Bah humbug, you meddling kids." The witch queen of Ikebukuro will hear about this. Princess Yoka won't tolerate their actions. Shizuru gasps at the mentioning of Yoka's name, and learns she's the fearsome ruler of both Ikebukuro and the world. Right before Chaos escapes, with the girls heading forward in the train, the pigs come after them since they have dependency issues, but the girls could only fixate on hearing their friend is the Witch Queen. Next to the 7G button, Princess Yoka wakes up to her guard, Pochi, delivering today's schedule. She's apparently free to do as she pleases until the afternoon, where she'll have lunch with Pontaro. So, she decides she wants to go to school. After getting changed, she has breakfast, and putting her things down in study hall, she sees the chaotic world that is Ikebukuro outside the window. At lunch, Pontaro greets her, saying she's looking healthier, cooler, and sexier than ever. What a creep. However, he humbly says he's honored the queen would acknowledge him. For lunch, they're served spicy curry with Agano bitter melon salad and vinegar. And with her becoming fixated on the word Agano, Pontaro quickly butts in saying the rural menu is most likely not to her taste. But she decides to eat it anyways, still fixated on the word. With Pontaro beginning his meal, not only does Yoka not know who he is, she wonders why he comes to hang out with her a lot. Pontaro assures her he is a loyal subject and the mayor of the town. However, Yoka has no idea what he means by subjects or princess either. We flash back to where Pontaro had meddled with her brain to make her forget everything, and a bodyguard assigned to her who took on the name of Pochi in memory of her beloved dog. Going out for a walk, Yoka comments that she isn't sure whether or not Ikebukuro is more amazing or more boring than she thought. However, the look of the city is related to her. She wants taller buildings and a more vibrant sky, and they appear. While walking out in the street one day, a threatening man tells Yoka to turn the world back to normal. Pochi disarmed the man, and Yoka got so angry, she turned him into a cup of soup that Pontaro began eating. Inside her room, she asked Pochi why that man hated this world, but he assured her the world was fine. Back to the traveling train, Shizuru loudly thanks everyone for joining her,
and they have a small, heartwarming moment while bantering. They then hear some screaming outside and see the swan hermit who gave them the map of the train line near the beginning. He's having a lot of trouble with the waterfall rapids, so Nanako decides to shoot him a line to save him. He was apparently heading to Agano and got lost, so he asked to see his map, and it turns out it was so useless they'd been using it as a plant coaster. But not that useless. With the swan hermit's stupid drawings, he had documented pretty much the state of every town along the train line. He then continues blabbing about having an inquisitive mind, and projects the entire world coming to an end, and warns the girls even if they try to stop whatever is happening in Ikebukuro, there are forces that will oppose them. As he takes off, he hands them a revised map, and they kindly give him some supplies in return. Looking at the new map, they observe some kusamochi and curry near the end of the line. They're still fixated on Yoka though, wondering if she's gotten tied up with some bad people. Back in the city, Pontaro's gotten word that the girls are on the way to meet Yoka. It'd be problematic for her memories to come back, so he tells Pochi he must eliminate them at all costs. With only 2 more stops to Ikebukuro, Shizuru has to put the train to a screeching halt with some creatures ahead of them. The girls step outside of the train to investigate the sentient stuffed animals in front of them, and Shizuru recognizes the smaller one as her father because of the apron. Shizuru then remembered her mom telling her if she found her dad along the way, to tell him to stop his travels and come back, which puts him in a bit of a panic. It's apparently been 2 years since he left, and he did send letters, but they were short, only reading things like, "I'm gonna be a bit longer." The father and the firefighter crew apparently turned into stuffed animals in the next town over. They even met Yoka there, but she was different for some reason. Regardless, the situation got sticky right after. Finished with all the chattering, Nanako fixed up their handcar since their short animal arms were unable to. 5 o'clock strikes and it's time to contact Zenjiro. He explains the world will come to an end if they don't put a stop to the 7G in Ikebukuro. However, they still don't have a solution for it yet. With that, the girls head forward towards their destination, waving goodbye to Shizuru's father and his crew who decide to head back to Agano. During their continued travels, with Reimi steering the train, the weather becomes gloomy all of a sudden. They notice Shinamachi Station, the place where Shizuru's father was attacked, and wonder if they'll be alright entering. And just as they try going through, they realize the other side is a complete dead-end cliff they cannot cross. They had no choice but to get off the train, even though they didn't want to deal with the potential weirdos. And wandering through the town, it seemed completely empty. A newspaper then suddenly hits Reimi's face, and they spot Yoka. The paper read, "Her Majesty Queen Yoka Nakatomi attended an astronomy learning session," and they were a little freaked out over how scary she looked. Some of the townspeople then appeared, telling the girls they won't be moving forward to Ikebukuro. These guys were apparently the ones who corrupted the bootleg Alice in Wonderland world, where they killed off the protagonist. The man shoots a beam at Nadeko with his paintbrush, and she becomes way too defined. Then Reimi gets shot in sort of the same way, and Shizuru gets turned into a little creature so her Agano Jujutsu is made ineffective. They try shooting Akira next, but for some reason, she's able to block it, and responds with her own attacks of different art styles. The art then begins assaulting one of the attackers, and that's when they learn the powers actually come from the berets. The artists then try a triple attack on Akira, but she blocks it and responds with a stampede of pochis. Akira then hands the beret to Reimi, where she casts BL Flash, something I think a lot of my viewers actually want. This causes the 2 guys with the berets to become beautified and have a romantic moment. Then, the 3 artists are hit with a beam that animates them in a way that makes them toss their berets. So now our 4 protagonists have them. With the artists at defeat's end, they explain their backstory about becoming mangaka whose works were never well received, which was quickly ignored so the girls could tie them up. Who cares about your backstory? Losers lose. Shizuru then shows them a picture of Yoka, and the 3 artists panic at the sight of their fearsome queen. Not only do they fear her, she was the one who bestowed them their powers through the berets. They then explain Pontaro told them the girls were a threat to their queen, and the very world itself, so that's why they were forced to block their way. This reminded Shizuru of the anger Zenjiro felt towards that man, who kept digging further into the research of 7G, despite being warned by many scientists. Then, with the berets' powers being revoked, the town and the train tracks returned to normal, and the sight of Ikebukuro became clear. There was heavy rain in Ikebukuro, as the sounds of the train came approaching. Although the citizens could hardly believe it was still running since the 7G incident began. With the train rushing through, the girls were shrieking over the increased speed, but Akira told them they needed to stop since they were going to hit the bay platform. And boom, they crashed. Shizuru came out shouting and asking if this was really Ikebukuro, while the other three slowly came out disoriented. Pochi then began barking because security arrived, threatening to eliminate them all. Then Pochi made the first move, giving the girls the opportunity to escape. At Yoka's place, she woke up to human Pochi cooking her breakfast. She had a strange feeling about the bitter melon miso soup he was serving, because it made her feel nostalgic for some reason. They then suddenly got a red alert, and outside the room, Shizuru told Pochi they were looking for Yoka Nakatomi. As they all approached, Pochi wouldn't stop barking, and Shizuru was stunned to see her missing friend behind human Pochi. Seeing Shizuru, Yoka's eyes began glowing and the hall they were in distorted until she calmed down. Yoka said the dog Pochi was cute, and asked if he belonged to Shizuru, not knowing this was hers. The rest of the girls were all surprised Yoka couldn't remember any of them for some reason, and Shizuru wondered if it was because Yoka might still be mad at her. However, Yoka had no idea what she'd be mad about. Her eyes then began glowing again, and suddenly she felt terrible, like something was stabbing her chest. But after calming down once again, she began sputtering what she knew about herself non-stop. She was in high school, loved astronomy, studied diligently every day here in Ikebukuro. Studying was fun. She liked learning about new things because it broadened her perspective, and she had a dream goal for when she grew up. Trying to remember that dream, she let out a burst of light that shoved Shizuru back. Pochi attempted to calm her. Then, Pontaro and his men showed up to eliminate the girls to protect Yoka, so the girls had to make their escape. Pontaro then ran over to the 7G button, freaked out because Yoka's friends were causing her anxiety. The girls made it back to the train and began their exit. While Pontaro watched in frustration, he then summoned Pochi to tell him they were moving Yoka to another location to keep her safe. Pochi didn't like the idea, since it might upset Yoka. However, Pontaro demanded he listened. The girls reached a safe distance to stop away. They were all a little down, wondering what was wrong with Yoka. Akira noticed the bitter melon started moving in Morse code, surmising the roots must have grown all the way back to Agano. They got notice to slice up the bitter melon and were surprised to hear Dr. Makoto speaking on the other side. Raimi poked at it, wondering if there was video calling. However, it was only a telephone line. With Zenjiro also on the line, the two explained the girls needed to press the 7G button to fix the world. So, Shizuru was determined to find it, since it might be their only option to fix everything. Then suddenly, hands started pressing onto the train, freaking the girls out. Oh hey, it's the zombies and Kuroki. Apparently after the girls left, the climate changed drastically at Hoya Station where Kuroki was last. If Kuroki had stayed there, the zombies would have grown rotten and moldy or dried up and crumbled away. So she had to leave. The girls discussed their mission to find the 7G button and fix everything with Kuroki, and she had intel on its possible location from when she was wandering around the city. All of them then mentioned how it would make sense that Pontaro would probably hide the button somewhere, since he didn't want to be held responsible for this whole mess once the world went back to normal. However, this made Shizuru feel somewhat depressed, since she might also have attributed to the problem when her fighting made Yoka flee to Ikebukuro. But their friends still encouraged Shizuru to talk things out with Yoka. The five girls began their search for the button, with Kuroki sending her zombies to check all over. They ran to a place where the zombies suddenly stopped, only to get bombarded by Sale's robots and paintings. But Shizuru kicked them out of the way. They eventually reached the spot where the button was, and Pontaro's men showed up as well. The zombies and the girls started fighting the henchmen, until human Pochi appeared. He then began fighting Shizuru one-on-one, because he desperately wanted to protect Yoka. As Shizuru got pushed back, she wanted to know if Yoka was okay with how the state of the world was. Then, Raimi jumped in to fight as well, only to get tossed into Nariko. The girls were losing, but this still gave Kuroki and Akira the opportunity to press the 7G button. However, it did absolutely nothing. Pochi then knocked out Shizuru, and train tracks appeared from above, giving Yoka and Pontaro their escape route. The girls got up to chase after the train, and with human Pochi attempting to stop them, dog Pochi bit him down into the water. The girls and the zombies then got in their train to try to catch up. Pontaro assured Yoka he'd keep her safe, but then she started having vague flashbacks of Shizuru. She became anxious and started calling out for human Pochi, but of course, he wasn't there. Back in the apogee, Shizuru hypothesized maybe they needed both Yoka and the button together to change the world back. Senjiro then explained the button needed to be pressed by the same person who pushed it in the first place for it to work. Conveniently, Kuroki called her zombies to bring the button along with them, and they continued chasing after Yoka's train. They ran into obstacles like missing tracks, but luckily, Kuroki was a big saver, having the zombies fill in the gap. Behind them though, it seems human Pochi had managed to tag along. Finally reaching the rails beside Yoka's train, the girls tried calling out to her, but not on Pontaro's watch. His train is armed with weapons and he fires at the apogee, nearly pushing the train over. However, the zombies are able to climb out and counterbalance. The apogee then converges rails and gets behind Yoka's train. The girls climb up because they're gonna jump trains, and even with some old foes joining in on the fight, Nadeko and Reimi easily take them out like low-level fodder. Pontaro continues to fire, but his weapons overload and explode. Kuroki then drives the apogee into Yoka's train, and when the girls hop aboard, Pontaro pulls out a gun on them. So they take their opportunity beating him up, but oh man, he takes Akira hostage. Then Pochi appears and we learn from Pontaro that the 7G is eating at Yoka's life, so he betrays Pontaro and throws him off. Human Pochi wants to save Yoka. Inside, he brings Yoka some tea and Shizuru. The other girls are watching from behind the door, believing their friends will make amends. Shizuru apologized for shutting Yoka's dreams down. She was just insecure about herself, and the more Yoka achieved, the worse Shizuru felt about her own life. Yoka didn't say anything, but instead smacked Shizuru with her hair. She then hit Shizuru again, and the friends tried to calm Yoka down. Yoka was hurting. The vague memories flashed again, and she said the words Shizuru said to her that fateful night. Like, you gotta know when you've got no chance, right? You're just embarrassing yourself with such high hopes. I don't care about you anymore, Yoka. Hearing the words she said repeated back to her, Shizuru gave a look of distraught. She apologized. She said those things because she didn't want Yoka to leave. Nadeko then told Yoka if she kept cutting them off, nothing would change. Shizuru used to think everything would have been fine if nothing ever changed. She could stay with all her friends in Agano forever, but now seeing the world, she realized it was bigger and a lot more fun than she thought. Yoka then freaked out and gripped Shizuru out of frustration and anxiety. However, Pochi's barking calmed her down. Nadeko then asked if Yoka's life was fun now, and when Yoka admitted it wasn't, a flower pot that Nadeko brought began blooming and presented all the memories the friends had in their childhood together. Shizuru then reasoned that if their world went back to normal, Yoka still had a chance to achieve her dreams. They placed the button in front of her. Yoka was afraid she might never achieve her dreams, but Shizuru told her this time she'd be cheering her on. It was better to try and have regrets than not do anything at all. The flower pot then lit the whole room, and now they were surrounded by constellations. Shizuru noticed the promised star named Sirius that she and Yoka saw together as children. Yoka then broke down in tears, asking for forgiveness, and her friends welcomed her back with open arms. Shizuru then extended her hand, and shaking it, Yoka was ready to push the button. But as she was going to press, Pontaro came back and tried to throw Yoka over, only to get taken out by the Swan Hermit's boat. Shizuru caught Yoka at the ledge, and they pulled her up. Yoka then pressed the button, and the world was restored, for the most part. The zombie people, now just regular people, still praised Kuroki as their queen. The rest of the girls then began heading back to Agano, and outside, Yoka spotted a crow that human Pochi had turned back into. They then got a call from Dr. Makoto, who explained the people of Agano turned back to being more human-like, but were still animal-esque. And as the girls gazed out into the night riding back, the world was at peace. That's where this story ends. Subscribe for more. Also, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.